All of their furniture was shifted there, but Gulmai was adamant that she would not stay in the new house until Upasni Maharaj himself came and performed the housewarming ceremony. Several months passed, but when Gulmai went to Sakori and invited Upasni Maharaj, he instructed, "Make a seat for me and place my photograph on it. This will be tantamount to my coming in person." Gulmai was not satisfied and requested that Maharaj come himself. The Sadguru refused, but when her husband Khan Sahib came himself to Sakori and entreated Maharaj to come, he relented. Baba and Gustaji were in Sakori at that time. 3 days later, Maharaj sent word with Gustaji that he intended to come in 2 weeks. "Before I come," he ordered, "keep a room clean, put a pot of fresh water there, and place a coconut on it. Keep a light burning inside at all times. The water should be changed daily." Gulmai did as instructed. Gustaji came 2 days in advance of the opening ceremony to instruct and assist her in preparing for Upasni Maharaj's Aarti and Puja. A car was hired to bring Maharaj. Rustam and Adi drove in it to Sakori. Durgabai accompanied Maharaj. The automobile stopped in front of the Irani's new house and Upasni descended. He was garlanded with flowers, offered a coconut, and welcomed inside. Everyone present took his darshan. Only Khan Sahib's brother-in-law, Saroj's father, remained staunchly opposed and refused to enter the house. Maharaj inspected every room of Saroj Manzil and selected the room downstairs where they had kept the water pot and a small kerosene lamp. A new seat had been prepared there for the master and he was requested to occupy it. He declined and asked for some gunny sacks. The only sackcloth in the house was some empty, discarded cement bags. These were brought and Upasni sat on them in a corner. Baba came from Pune the following day and occupied a small room at the top of the house on the third floor, which overlooked the city. As Maharaj himself was staying downstairs, Baba did not allow any of his followers to slip upstairs, so they were accommodated at the Parsi Dharmshala next door. The Irani family was wealthy and the housewarming ceremony was elaborately planned. Many from the town were invited. Before the ceremony took place on Tuesday, 26 July 1921, the Orthodox Zoroastrians and some of Gulmai's own relatives again strongly objected to a Hindu guru cutting the welcome ribbon. Gulmai, however, refused to relent and insisted Upasni Maharaj be given the honor. The ceremony proceeded as Gulmai had planned. Some of Maharaj's devotees had come from Pune. His Hindu devotees were accommodated in a Hindu neighbor's home where Maharaj had his meals with Durgabai. The others ate with Khan Sahib and his family. Maharaj and Baba stayed at Saroj Manzil for 7 days as honored guests of the family. Baba guided them in the performance of Upasni's Aarti in the morning and evening. The entire week resembled a joyous wedding occasion. Bhajans were sung nightly. Gulmai's son Adi would play the harmonium and Baba would accompany him on the dholak and sing in a melodious voice. "Go and give tea to Merwan," Upasni would tell Gulmai during the programs. His throat must have become sore from singing. Maharaj was most particular about his favorite disciple. "See, Merwan never eats," he remarked to Gulmai one day. "A little while ago, he took a cold bath, but he puts on the same dirty clothes. Go give him some of Rustam's clothes." She did so, but Baba refused them. During this time, Adi fell seriously ill with a high fever. Maharaj treated Adi with quinine tablets, which he took several times a day. Baba would also visit Adi every day and inquire about his health. Then he would personally give Adi tea or water and help him walk back and forth in the room. Adi recovered. more quickly than expected and never forgot the loving care that Baba expressed to him at that time. He thought, my mother's or father's love is like a small pond when compared to Meher Baba's, which is like an ocean. It is better I seek the love of the ocean. Adi was attending Deccan College in Pune and Baba promised he would arrange for better meals from one of his followers. Adi, being especially fond of good food, was further touched by Baba's consideration, and he was drawn closer into Meher Baba's first circle of contacts. One day, Baba walked alone with Adi behind the house, where Baba sat on a stone near a well. There he asked Adi, do you know who I am? I know that you are the chief disciple of Upasni Maharaj. Adi replied, more than that, I do not know. I shall not tell you who I am today. Baba stated, but you will definitely come to know, and you will see that your name is made known all over the world. Your future has deep significance in my work. With my love and with your obedience of my instructions, you will prove to be a fit instrument for my work. Later, Baba added, I will make you like Vivekananda. Adi was overcome with joy and began thinking of joining Baba permanently. One day, during the week-long celebration, Upasni Maharaj requested that Gulmai and Khan Sahib take him to Bapu Sahib Wali's tomb in Ahmednagar. The shrine was nearby and Maharaj went there with some of the guests. Bapu Sahib was a Mohammedan holy man who was revered in Ahmednagar and had been closely connected with Khan Sahib's father. Unknown to most people, but known to Upasni Maharaj, Bapu Sahib was actually a God-realized mazhoob. When Khan Sahib's father died, Bapu Sahib came to the family's house to view the body. At one point, the God-conscious man demanded that some of his devotees' clothes be handed over to him, to which the family consented. On this occasion, Gulmai wished to offer Maharaj a small amount of money she had saved from her household budget. She placed the packet at Maharaj's feet. He did not touch it, but instead beckoned for Baba and told Gulmai, this is my boy, Merwan. He is very good. He looks after my needs. You may give the money to him and he will do what is needed with it. So Gulmai gave Baba the packet. Afterward, Baba met in private with Gulmai and Khan Sahib and told them, whatever Maharaj does is for the ultimate good. He has been perfected. He has the consciousness of God. Maharaj's mind is universal. You must try to help his work. You have come in his contact due to your past connections with him. You have been to Sakori. There is no lodging in the village. Those who go there find it difficult to stay. There is a need for a few rooms to be constructed for people to take rest. If the money can somehow be raised. Gulmai asked how much money, and Baba replied, 2, maybe 4,000 rupees. Gulmai discussed the matter with her husband, and Khan Sahib agreed to help. Another day, Baba called Gulmai and her husband to Upasni Maharaj's room, where he suggested that in honor of the master, a day be set aside to celebrate. The idea was discussed, and Baba suggested that it be on Maharaj's birthday in May at Sakori. I will let you know how much money to collect, Baba said, and everything will be done by you. Before leaving on the 8th day, Upasni Maharaj went around the old and new house in each and every room and instructed Gulmai to sprinkle water from the pot placed in his room in both houses. He then said, place the pictures of all gods in this, Maharaj's room. Do not place anything else. Keep it as a prayer room. The car arrived. All present took Maharaj's darshan as the car was loaded. Gulmai began wrapping up the gunny sacks which Maharaj had sat on, but he told her to keep them. Upasni Maharaj, Durgabai, Baba, Khan Sahib, Gulmai and her sister Sunamasi got into the car. The rest followed by train. On the way, when someone mentioned those going by train Maharaj made a significant pronouncement. The Sadguru is like the engine, he remarked. If the compartments are joined to him, he takes them to the destination desired. Similarly, join your compartments to Merwan and he will carry them to their respective stations, spiritual stations. He added, when I provide Merwan with the engine, your prophet Zoroaster will manifest. Halfway to Sakori, the car got a flat tire. Everyone got down and sat under a tree while it was being repaired. After reaching Sakori, Khan Sahib wished to return to Ahmednagar immediately, but it rained heavily. They could not return as the roads were flooded. Aarti was held in the evening. Baba sang and played the drum. Gulmai was tired and lay down in a corner near the temple. Khan Sahib and Baba sat talking. Seeing her asleep, Baba took a blanket and spread it over her. Aarti was performed as usual that evening, and Baba sang and accompanied himself on the drum. The next day, Durgabai prepared lunch for them before those from Ahmednagar returned home. Shortly after Baba returned to Pune from Ahmednagar, Kani brought the news that Munshi Ji had been transferred to Bombay and asked Baba where the group should hold their meetings now. Baba replied, it is all prearranged from the beginning. After some time, the center of my activities will shift to Bombay. The prohibition movement had started in India and protests against liquor and toddy shops arose. The liquor shops were picketed and business drastically fell off. On this pretext, Baba told his parents, I'm going to Sakori to see Upasni Maharaj and request him to put a stop to this prohibition. I will come back in about a week. With these words, Baba left Pune alone. He did not return for 6 months. During this period, with Maharaj at Sakori, Meher Baba completely regained normal human consciousness of the world to begin his divine mission as the avatar of the age. To understand what Merwan had undergone during the past 8 years is to understand the process of realization and perfection. After Babajan's kiss in January 1914, Merwan had attained God consciousness. His inner state was that of a mazhoob, one drowned in infinity. For almost 2 years, creation had not existed for him, neither in his individual mind nor in any manner or form whatsoever. Merwan's consciousness was divine. It was infinite, perfect, but he had no mastery of all knowledge, all power, and all bliss. Merwan was conscious of infinite light and was light itself, but was totally unconscious of its shadow, the creation, his own self, and the world. As the avatar, God had descended into the body of Merwan Irani from his beyond state of God, the Absolute. Merwan never passed through the processes of evolution, reincarnation, and involution prior to his birth. The 5 perfect masters of the age brought him down into the form of Merwan from his formless state of God. But from 1894 to 1914, the 5 perfect masters wheeled him from his own divinity. Baba Jan's gentle kiss tore away that protective veil of Vijnani sanskaras, and within minutes he became once more infinitely aware of his real self as eternal existence. However, after Baba Jan's kiss, simultaneously with the attainment of divine consciousness, Merwan lost every tinge of normal human consciousness. He had a human body that acted automatically, but he had no awareness of that body. He was only conscious of being infinite knowledge, infinite power, and infinite bliss. All 5 perfect masters play a direct or indirect role in bringing the avatar into creation, forming a wheel of Vijnani sanskaras that revealing his God consciousness and bringing him back down to function perfectly on all planes and on all levels of consciousness. It was through Baba Jan that Merwan attained infinite bliss. Through Sai Baba, that he attained infinite power. And through Upasni Maharaj, that he attained infinite knowledge. Narayan Maharaj and Tajuddin Baba played direct roles in bringing him into creation also, but indirect roles in bringing him down after he was God realized. Upasni Maharaj played the most direct role. When Maharaj struck Merwan with the stone at their initial encounter, it was the first time in nearly 2 years that Merwan experienced an iota of gross consciousness. It was during the subsequent 7 year contact with Upasni Maharaj that Merwan fully regained his lost individual human consciousness while simultaneously being God conscious. A worldly person has consciousness of only the gross world and knows nothing about God consciousness. Such a person does not have even a shadow of an idea of the reality of God. A mazhub is fully conscious of divinity but unconscious of the world. A spiritually advanced person on one of the three planes of the subtle world knows of the powers of God, and one of the fourth plane, Kuber, knows the full infinite power of God. An advanced Wali on the fifth plane of the mental world knows the infinite mind of God, while a Peer, saint on the sixth plane of the mental world sees the infinite existence of God. Only a perfect soul, Shivatma, on the seventh plane really knows God because he is fully, infinitely conscious of actually being God himself. Once God realization is attained, it becomes and remains everlasting. God consciousness is never affected by anything in the three spheres or by any circumstances. It is continually experienced as an infinite self contained phenomena with one's own infinity. However, in order for a person with God consciousness to do universal work in the world, normal consciousness is required. Such is the functioning state of the perfect masters and the avatar. To regain gross consciousness, 7 stages have to be passed through as they descend through the 7 planes. A description in detail of each stage is not possible. To regain normal human consciousness is to come down from the height of divinity, from infinity itself, diving to the bottom of the ocean of divine life to obtain the pearl, and to resurface to show the pearl to others comprises the lives of the perfect masters. But the avatar does not have to dive to the depths of the ocean because he eternally processes the pearl of divine life. Yet to show it to the world, Mirwan had to regain his worldly awareness to function as Avatar Meher Baba. Side by side with the divine consciousness of unity, he had to have the consciousness of duality. The difference in coming down through the 7 planes between the perfect masters and the avatar is that when a perfect master comes down, he becomes conscious of everything and everyone in creation. He becomes one with everything and everyone. But he does not become those very things and beings. Whereas the avatar actually becomes everything and everyone, and he alone suffers everything that everyone suffers. Therefore, in his coming down, there is infinite agony. For example, when the children threw stones at Tajuddin Baba, although they appeared to have hurt him, he never felt the pain. Tajuddin only acted as if he had felt the pain. Whereas when Merwan was hit on the forehead by the stone thrown by Upasni Maharaj, he actually felt the pain of the stone striking his flesh. From 1915 through 1921, while regaining his gross consciousness in Pune, Mirwan very slowly became aware of his immediate surroundings. As his awareness of the world increased, He experienced all things coming out of his being, emerging from his innermost being. He was God conscious, and as a human being, he would be active, but his actions were automatic, without premeditation. His human acts were similar to that of a mechanical toy that functions when wound up and started. From 1915, when he would do a certain action, he would do the same thing continuously until he was stopped by someone. For example, Yashwant Rao, Upasni Maharaj's close disciple, was given the order during Meher Baba's 6th month stay at Sakori to prepare pan for Baba every night. Another disciple of Upasni Maharaj named Trimbak was given the same duty during the day. Once Baba started chewing pan, he would do it continuously, asking for one pan after another. Both Yashwant Rao and Trimbak had to work like a machine on an assembly line to keep up with Baba's requests. He would consume hundreds of the pan leaves at a time. Baba would chew more pan at night than during the day. Once Yashwant became so exhausted preparing the leaves that he collapsed and fell asleep for a few minutes. Upasni Maharaj happened to come by and caught him resting. Kicking him awake, Maharaj scolded, "Don't you ever let me catch you asleep again. Consider it your sacred duty to prepare pan for Merwan. Have you any idea how fortunate you are to serve Merwan? In the future, you'd better not be so negligent." During one stage of his coming down, Baba felt that he was all alone in the universe. He experienced the entire universe existing for him alone. Whatever happened in the universe happened solely for him. His experience was not just that he felt it to be so, but that he actually saw it to be so. For instance, if he saw a man walking, eating, or talking, he saw himself and knew that it was he who was walking, eating, or talking. In short, it is impossible to describe the experiences of the descent of one who is God realized and emerges back into the universal creation. What is essential is to comprehend that God consciousness is totally separate from and transcendent of all the varied aspects of consciousness, mental, subtle, or gross. God realization is the experience of the very consciousness of God and of Him alone. It is absolute existence, infinite and eternal, as in fact, nothing exists besides it. Meher Baba's experiences during the stages of his descent that he alone as God existed, that the universe was only functioning for him alone, that everything existed because of him, that he was everything, that he was everyone, that he was responsible for everything and everyone, that by his very existence he was meant to help everything and everyone, were distinct stages of higher consciousness involved with his descent through the 7 planes into the gross world. He was then, over a period of 7 years, gradually becoming more and more conscious of the world and of the purpose of his actual being and identity, his avatarhood. In divine consciousness, there is absolutely nothing that pertains to the universe. There is no consciousness of the existence of the universe or of anything or anyone else. To the avatar or perfect master, even after completely recovering normal consciousness, the whole universe which he sees and of which he is in charge looks like a mere shadow. During another stage of his regaining worldly consciousness, Meher Baba began experiencing the thoughts of all human beings in the universe. The individual thoughts of those persons in the gross world, irrespective of whether they were near or far, would instantaneously pour into his universal mind at the moment that they were created thought. The numerous thought waves were so forceful and so tremendously rapid, it is impossible for us to have an idea of their effect. The very process of infinite thinking was rushing through Baba's individual mind. He could withstand it. only because his mind had become universal. For instance, a person's thoughts in America that moment they were formed would rush into Meher Baba's universal mind. Thus, all the thought waves of all of humanity on earth would stream into and permeate Meher Baba's universal mind in a few minutes. At the beginning of this particular stage of Baba's coming down, when his universal mind was starting to function, he was sitting alone by a canal at Sakori. Within a few minutes, the force of the thoughts of thousands and thousands of persons on earth entered his universal mind. The impact of it was so tremendous, he became uneasy and restless, and in an attempt to break the shock, he submerged his head underwater in the canal. He held his head underwater for several minutes until his individual mind found relief. During another stage of his coming down at Sakori, Baba had another experience which he later described. I experienced circles and circles of lights coming out of my heart. There were countless circles within circles. All the infinite number of universes were coming out of me, each containing an infinite number of planets, moons, and suns. Baba's physical labor in the toddy shop at Kasba Pet helped him tremendously in the process of coming down. While he labored in the toddy shop, he was near the final stage of regaining worldly consciousness. During this stage, he felt the impulse to work continuously and exert himself physically. This impulse to be physically active came from Upasni Maharaj, for Upasni was directing Meher Baba's descent. It seems that this stage of regaining normal human consciousness required the accomplishment of deeds of the purest virtue done with the deepest humility. To attain this pure humility, Baba worked like a common laborer in the toddy shop for 3 years, in spite of the fact that he was actually a divine man with full divine consciousness of infinite power, knowledge, and bliss. During this phase, Baba would clean the toilets, sweep the shop floors and surrounding areas, wash the dirty glasses, cups, and dishes of the customers, and do all kinds of menial tasks. On one occasion, Behramji recounted, once Merwan Seth started filling empty bottles with toddy, he would continue doing the task for hours until every bottle was filled. Though this task was squalid, he would show an interest in doing it. The majority of the customers were poor, crude people. Most were illiterate, attired in dirty clothes, and used obscene language to express themselves. They would spit on the floor of the shop wherever they were sitting, and Merwan would mop the floors clean every day. Most were alcoholics, and when drunk, they would find comfort lying on the floor or in the street. Merwan, however, would serve these drunkards and treat them kindly and even lovingly. The toddy shop was, in fact, a front which enabled Meher Baba to do humble, lowly physical labor. No sooner was its purpose served than the prohibition protests started in Pune. The liquor and toddy shops were picketed, and people protested against alcohol in any form. In the universe, the number of worlds that exist is so great that it is beyond the imagination of the human mind. For a man who is God realized, it is possible, however, to see and count not only the 18,000 planets with human life, but also the thousands and thousands of other planets in different evolving stages. One night in Sakori during 1921, while Baba was alone with Upasni Maharaj, the Sadguru remarked, with my gross eyes, I can count all the planets in all the universes. This requires the concentration of my mind on one point. Maharaj started concentrating and counted universe after universe. However, the actual velocity of the universes in motion is at such an inexpressible speed that to count a number with one's gross eyes is overwhelming to the limited human mind. As Upasni continued counting, within a short period, Baba said, Maharaj, stop! Stop counting! Had he not stopped Maharaj at this moment, the Sadguru would have dropped his body within a few moments. Then Baba said, I shall try to count the planets in the universe. As he was counting the different planets, Maharaj shortly thereafter prevented him from continuing, or else Baba too would have dropped his body then. When the universes are so numerous, millions and millions, how can one continue observing them with his cross eyes? Who can conclude what reason or purpose lay behind this cosmic game between these two perfect ones? Upasni Maharaj once commented that he saw everything in its infinite expanse in one view, while Meher Baba commented that he saw everything in its expanse, but in panoramic detail. Meanwhile, during Baba's long stay at Sakori, Mimo was becoming terribly upset that her son had not returned to Pune. She went to Babajan and asked when her son would come home. Babajan murmured, My beloved son, my son. Mimo shouted at her, He's not your son, he's my son. From where did you bring him? Babajan asked. He belongs to the whole world, not you. Again she murmured, Ah, mera pyara beta. Mimo sensed it was hopeless to try to get any definite answer from Babajan, and she returned home frustrated. Later, she requested her mother, Golandu, and her niece, Naja, to try to persuade Babajan to call Merwan back to Pune. However, as before, Babajan shifted the conversation with Golandu to the homeland and to Persian poetry. The two Persian ladies began reminiscing, laughing, and crying together like the closest of friends, and Golandun forgot to ask Babajan to send for Merwan. Golandun was sent several times to Babajan at Mimo's insistence. Once, when Golandun remembered to ask, Babajan replied, My beloved son belongs to the world. He will shake the world to its foundation one day. Why do you worry about him? He is now out of your hands. Her remarks touched Golandun, but they did not console Mimo. Finally, Mimo became so distressed that she went to Sakori to confront Upasni Maharaj. Mimo had been to Sakori a few times before. Whenever Merwan had gone there, she would inevitably find out and arrive later, hoping to persuade him to let her take him back. Usually, Maharaj would meet her as she entered Sakori, and he too would shift the conversation to some other topic so that she would forget to inquire about Merwan. Maharaj's trick would dawn on her only when she was on her way back to Pune in the train. Mimo would curse, That old man has fooled me again. On this occasion, Mimo was determined not to fall for one of Upasni Maharaj's tricks. As she and her son Behram, who had accompanied her, entered his compound, Maharaj greeted her warmly. Welcome, mother, welcome. Mimo was irritated by his comment and asked, How could I be your mother when you are so old? You are the mother of the entire universe, dear woman, replied Upasni Maharaj. Mimo sensed he was up to some trickery and said, I won't be deceived by compliments. I'm not here to be flattered by you. Show me where my son is. I have come for him. Maharaj gently said, Mother, first sit a while with me. Then he sent for Durgabai, telling her, Cook something special for Merwan's mother. Maharaj began to press, massage her feet. Mimo, meanwhile, had forgotten to garland Upasni, so she unwrapped the flowers she had brought for him. Upasni remarked, What a lovely garland of shoes you have brought. What? Exclaimed Mimo. What do you mean by that? I have carried these flowers with me all the way from Pune just for you. And yes, I know what you were thinking, Upasni interrupted. How you would fight with me when you got here? You were abusing me the entire way. Mimo was taken aback and silently acknowledged the truth of his words. But she sensed he was trying to outwit her again, and she said, Now, Maharaj, Don't get me sidetracked. I have come to speak with my son. Where is he? Upasni gently replied, He's somewhere around. I don't know why he stays here. Your son seems mentally unbalanced. I don't know what to do about him. I myself don't force him to stay. I even beat him with a stick to chase him away. But he will not go. What am I to do with him? Mother, what are you going to do when you take him home? Do you think it will help him? Mimo replied, Yes, it will help him. I shall arrange his marriage as soon as we get back to Pune. That is a good idea, replied Maharaj. But then he added, Mother, do one thing first. When you find a nice girl for Merwan, find another girl for me. Then we can both come with you to be married. Mimo was shocked by Upasni's request and replied, Who will give his daughter to an old man like you? But when I am your son, how can I be unsuitable? Maharaj asked. This irritated Mimo and she insisted, Stop teasing me and call Merwan now. Indicating Gulmai, who was nearby, Upasni said, This is Gulbai, Maharaj's name for Gulmai, from Ahmednagar. She is also a Zoroastrian. Make friends with her and cool your temper. Later, when you see Merwan, don't pester the boy with questions. Talk with him cheerfully, then depart. Dear lady, you're fortunate to have him as your son, and it is because of your good past lives. What can I do about him? You must encourage him to follow the spiritual path. Don't throw him into hell, worldly life. He will get married one day. Upon hearing this, and after talking with Gulmai, Mimo was somewhat pacified. Upasni, meanwhile, kept shifting the conversation and kept Mimo occupied until Durgabai brought lunch. While Mimo and Gulmai were eating together, Upasni suddenly interrupted them and exclaimed, Oh, how late it is! Hurry, mother, or you will miss your train. Mimo had obsession about being on time and forgot about Merwan in her haste to return on the railway station by Tonga. She left Merwan in Sakori again. Only after she was back on the train headed for Pune did she remember that she had missed seeing Merwan again. But it was too late to get off. She looked at Behram and exclaimed, That old man has deceived me again. After some time, Mimo could not control her distress, and she also went to Kedgaon to plead with Narayan Maharaj about Merwan. On this occasion, Narayan received her with great respect and told her, You are very, very fortunate. Your son is Jagat, the Lord of the universe, and you yourself will be worshipped in times to come as the mother of the entire universe. Have patience, everything will soon be all right. You will see. One day, you will know who your son really is. Mimo was comforted by Narayan's gentle manner. However, she was not fully consoled, nor did she understand the Sadguru's remarks. Mimo could not bear to be separated from Merwan much longer. He was still in Sakori and would not come home to visit, nor would he write. It was also difficult for Mimo to bear the ridicule of the local Zoroastrian community. Some Zoroastrians in Pune would mock her son's spiritual tendencies, telling her, Merwan will run away to the Himalayas and become a naked sadhu. You'd better do something to put a stop to all this nonsense. Why does he run after that old Muslim woman, Baba Jan, and the Hindu saint of Sakori? Thus, Mimo would become deeply disturbed about her son's situation and feel terrible anxiety about Merwan's future. She would convey her fears to her husband, but Bobo was resigned that his son belonged to God. It was difficult for Mimo to tolerate her husband's resignation, for she wanted Merwan near her despite Merwan's adamant refusal to agree to marriage, settling down and raising a family. While Baba was away in Sakori, Baba's brother Behram would light a prayer lamp in Baba's room and always keep the room clean. Baba had instructed him to garland each of the five masters' photograph every Thursday, which he did for the rest of his life. Behram and Jal had both accepted their brother as someone spiritually great. Though their brother Jamshed was the first among the children to have full conviction of Baba's divinity. Jamshed was also the first to worship Baba's photograph, which he kept in a special place in the house. Sometimes Baba too would bow to his own photograph there. Mimo continued to miss her son terribly. She could not tolerate being separated from him any longer. A week after the encounter with Upasni Maharaj, Mimo went to Sakori again, more determined than ever. She confronted Maharaj and railed, "Why don't you give me back my son? You have taken my son away. Now send him back." "I'm not holding Merwan prisoner here," Maharaj stated. "You can take him. I have not held Merwan captive here. I have not chained him up somewhere." Mimo was irritated. "You know full well that Merwan won't come home unless you order him to do so." Upasni replied, "I'm not going to order him to do that. It is up to him to decide." Turning and glancing at Mimo's son Adi, who had accompanied her, Upasni continued, "I'll tell you what I'll do. Do this for me. I'll order Merwan to go back with you. But you will have to leave this son of yours here with me." Mimo became incensed. "What? How dare you? You have swallowed up one son and now you want to swallow another one? Call Merwan this instant." Upasni replied, "Please calm yourself, dear lady." He bowed to her feet in respect, then called for Merwan. Merwan arrived, looking dazed. Mimo eyed him closely. He was unshaven and his clothes were dirty and torn. Shireen Mai had brought him clean clothes, but he refused to wear them. Maharaj spoke to him. "Merwan, your mother has come back again. She wants you to go home and get married. Every time your mother comes here, she is angry and fights with me. I'm fed up with her abuses. Now go back with her." Then Upasni smiled and said, "Go back with her, get married, have children, and she will be happy. Become a thief, speak lies, steal from anyone, go away from here. Then your mother will be happy, but you will end up in hell." "Don't joke about this with me," cried Mimo. "I am serious. I want my son back." Baba had been standing beside Maharaj. Then he sat beside him. He had been smiling but now appeared sad. Durgabai brought refreshments and Mimo and Adi went outside to eat and rest under a tree with her. Durgabai told Mimo, "What can we do? Merwan does not want to leave Maharaj. Maharaj gave him a small room without windows. It is dark and empty. Maharaj gives him no comforts, but still your son wants to stay near him. I cannot explain it. He loves Maharaj and likes it here." Mimo started weeping and pleaded with Durgabai. "I don't understand it. Why doesn't Maharaj give me back my son? Why doesn't Merwan want to come home? Why does Maharaj wish me so much grief?" With these words, Durgabai also wept. Mimo went back inside where Upasni Maharaj and her son were seated. Upasni said, "Your son does not want to go home. He does not want to get married, and he does not want children. Forget about your ideas and go back home. He wants to stay here with me." Upasni embraced Mimo and gently said, "I bow to your love for Merwan." Mimo left quite unconsoled. When Mimo arrived home, she did not speak to anyone but went to her room and wept bitterly. She was unreconciled to the fact that she had lost her favorite son. Bobo failed in his attempts to console her and she wept for days. Her heart and spirit were broken. Still terribly distraught, she returned to Sakori a week later. This time she confronted Maharaj and Baba for 3 days, but her attempts to persuade her son to live with her failed again. It was a bitter and heartbreaking battle. Mimo lost and returned to Pune in total dismay. After this quarrel, Mimo suffered a breakdown and her health deteriorated. She would lie in bed weeping and was most of the time insensible. She refused to cook and the children and home were attended to by servants. Bobo called a doctor who was concerned about her mental and physical condition. Mimo's mother Golandun and Bobo did their best to nurse and comfort her, but she was disconsolate. Weeks passed. There was no sign of recovery, and Bobo thought Mimo might die. Once, while she was sleeping, Bobo, who was keeping watch over her, saw the door open and two figures approached her bed. One spirit resembled Merwan, and the other, wearing a white turban and kafni, resembled Sai Baba. The two figures stayed a few minutes near Mimo, gazing at her, then they vanished. Soon afterward, Mimo awoke and, for the first time in weeks, spoke clearly and asked for water. Bobo poured water for her, and amazingly, Mimo's condition rapidly improved. She then became well and normal, much to the relief of everyone in the family. During this 6 month stay at Sakori in 1921, Baba never once left Upasni Maharaj's ashram. He lived in a small room he had built at the end of the Chaur residence block. His bedding consisted of two quilts and a khadi, handspun, sheet, and his sole possession was a wooden box that contained some personal papers and letters. He wore the same tattered cotton shirt and pants continuously, with a pair of sandals Babajan had given him. Although he was coming down and regaining normal consciousness, he still never rested or slept this entire period, not even closing his eyelids for a few minutes. He also never once bathed or changed his clothes during these months. His thin body became ridden with lice, and dirt was caked to his skin. Every night, after participating in the Aarti and Bhajans, he would sit with Upasni Maharaj in his hut until up to 4 in the morning. Yashwant Rao would keep palm leaves prepared outside the hut and would bring them whenever called. Beli stayed for a time in Sakori and also did watch duty outside Maharaj's hut. It is said that Baba and Maharaj wept together, and that strange sounds and cries would echo through the hut. Adi Senior recalled once seeing Maharaj and Baba seated close together with a cloth or blanket over their heads, talking back and forth to each other. No one could understand what they were saying. Naturally, the villagers and other devotees at Sakori respected Baba because of his close relationship with their guru. They took Baba to be Upasni's favorite disciple and honored him as Upasni's spiritual heir. There were, however, a few Brahmin disciples of Upasni's who thought Baba was merely being penitent. They had observed him weeping, and when he was given solicitous respect by the other devotees, they became jealous. How could a Zoroastrian become the chief disciple of a guru? They wondered. When Upasni would call Baba Mahadev, great God, usually a reference to Shiva, the Brahmins would become especially irate. Most, however, were won over by Baba's loving nature and would sit around him whenever possible in the latter days of his day. They would bring delicious meals to him, and during this period, he had a ravenous appetite. Durgabai, Maharaj's chosen spiritual mother, had a special love for Meher Baba. Durgabai was the only disciple to whom Upasni had revealed the true relationship that existed between him and Baba. She would seek Baba's counsel in all matters. If it happened that he did not come out of his room as usual and was late for the meal she served, Durgabai would weep until he arrived. One time, Baba revealed to his Pune disciples, Gustadji, Bahramji, Sadashiv, Sayyid Sahib and others, this about her: none of you men have loved me like Durgabai. Even my own mother has not and could not love me as much as she does. During this time, from the money that Khan Sahib and Gulmai had raised, construction of a rest house and an ashram compound was underway in Sakori. A temple was also being expanded, and a permanent canopy was being erected for Aarti and Bhajans. One mason was in charge of the work, and Upasni's men and women disciples worked under his supervision. Durgabai would drive the bullock cart while the other women carried camellas filled with stones, lime, and earth. Upasni would assist the mason on finishing touches, and Meher Baba would also lend a hand, while Gulmai assisted Durgabai in her work. After evening arti, all Upasni Maharaj men and women disciples, including Baba, would sing bhajans into the night. In his room, Baba taught Gulmai certain spiritual songs which she would write down. Two of the songs were Love's Path is Very Difficult and O Lord, why have you played the flute? प्रेम नगर की राह कठिन है कार्य हरी तू मुरली वाजवली. Gulmai would practice these songs with Baba until about 9 o'clock. Then she would retire with Durgabai. During this period, Meher Baba did not close his eyes and seldom would lie down for rest. Upasni Maharaj would come to his room and beckon him. Come, Merwan, come. They would sit alone in Upasni's thatched hut near the village's crematory grounds, where Baba would note down on paper whatever the master dictated. Baba kept these notes in a wooden box in his room. Upasni would continue for hours dictating point after point, and Baba would go on writing until midnight, or even past 2 o'clock. No one knows what was written. Durgabai would always stay awake waiting for Baba to return to his room. She would keep food ready for him in case he felt hungry. At that time, Durgabai was also Upasni's most trusted woman disciple and loved Baba profoundly. She was the only person at Sakori to whom Upasni revealed, Merwan is the avatar. During the day, Durgabai also cooked Baba's meal. He would come to the kitchen on her quarters and insist that Gulmai eat with him. He would shower his affection on Gulmai and insist that they share the same plate. Usually he would eat only a few morsels and make Gulmai finish the meal. Baba would ask for food at any odd time, and if, for some reason, there was any delay, he would not eat it. That is why Durgabai always kept food prepared and was ordered by Upasni to be always ready to serve Baba's needs. Usually, when walking back from Upasni's hut late in the night, Baba would not ask for food, even if he were hungry and had not eaten all day, because Gulmai would be asleep in the kitchen with Durgabai. In the morning, Baba would affectionately tell him, I went to bed hungry as I did not wish to disturb you. During this 6-month period, Baba would spontaneously start singing at any time of the day or night. His melodious voice would fill the rural solitude of Sakori. Those listening would become enraptured. Baba's voice was so transcendently beautiful that it seemed as if their lives had no other purpose than to sit and listen to him sing. At those moments, when he was moved to sing, song after song would pour from him as if the sweet echoes from the waves of the divine ocean filled the air. Listening to him too, Upasni Maharaj would occasionally shed tears of joy in testament to the divine bliss in Merwan's songs. One day, Yashwant Rao presented Baba with a long black woolen coat made of rough blanket cloth called kamli. Baba was to wear this woolen coat for years and years. When the coat was torn, he would insist that it be patched. He never accepted any other as his favorite coat. The black kamli wool coat may have served as a link to keep Yashwant Rao and the other disciples of Upasni Maharaj in Meher Baba's contact. Although Yashwant Rao stayed permanently at Sakori and did not live at Baba's ashram, he maintained personal contact with Baba until he died. Meher Baba once remarked that the coat is spiritually connected with India and should not leave the country. The coat is now preserved at the Mehrabad Museum. As the 6-month period drew to a close and it was becoming evident that Baba was soon to depart from Sakori, Upasni Maharaj would tell those who came for his darshan, go to Merwan. I have given over my charge, authority to him. Merwan now holds my key. On another occasion among a group of his disciples, Upasni told them, whatever I received from Sai Baba, I have handed over to Merwan. And this pointing to the gunny sack wrapped around his waist. I shall give to someone else. If you want what Sai Baba gave me, go to Merwan. Later, when a large gathering of disciples, including Durgabai, were present, Upasni looked at Durgabai and pointed to Merwan, saying, "This lad will shake the whole world." Another time, when Maharaj's disciples from Kharagpur and Nagpur had come, Upasni interrupted his discourse and pointed to Baba, remarking, "Up to now, no Guru has opened a college of Jnana, divine knowledge, but he will soon do so." Late in 1921, Gustaji, Sadashiv, and Behramji were each called to Sakori. Baba discussed his plans with Sadashiv to stay in a hut somewhere in a remote area of Pune. When Upasni Maharaj and Baba were seated together, Upasni solemnly told Gustaji, "I have made Merwan perfect. From now on, hold on to him." On the occasion, Sadashiv was sitting with Upasni Maharaj, who suddenly started shedding tears and uttered, "Merwan now has all that Sai Baba gave me. Everything has been transferred to him. The whole burden is on his shoulders now." Maharaj told Behramji, "Your friend Merwan is now God realized. Always do as he says and obey him implicitly." Beli reported that Maharaj declared, "I have nothing left with me now. All of you now follow Merwan. I have given him all that I had. I have become totally naked. Everything is now with him. Don't trouble me anymore. I can't do anything for you now. Now you should all go to Merwan. He has got everything. He's the only one who can do anything for you now. Take him to be your protector, sustainer, and destroyer, and obey all his orders with respect. He is now the only one who can lead you to your final destination. Believe what I tell you in full faith and leave me alone." Although Meher Baba's early disciples had a strong conviction and faith in him, hearing these words directly from one as great as Upasni Maharaj impressed these young men profoundly. They returned to Pune and repeated to others Upasni's words that Meher Baba was perfect, a Sadguru, and this information gradually spread throughout Pune. The day that age had long awaited had finally come. The Avatar's divine mission was to begin. In January 1922, Meher Baba was destined to leave Upasni Maharaj and Sakori and begin his universal work. A few minutes before his departure, Upasni Maharaj called him into his hut and with folded hands proclaimed, "Merwan, you are Adi Shakti, the primal force. You are the avatar of the age." Baba sobbed tears of infinite bliss and clutched the feet of his guru. Upasni Maharaj held him in his arms for a long time. Baba said goodbye to all those gathered outside and swiftly climbed into a waiting tonga, accompanied by Beli. Upasni Maharaj's women disciples rushed forward to touch his feet and have his darshan. Within a few minutes, the tonga departed for the train station, where Baba boarded a train to Bombay. For a long time until the tonga was out of sight, Upasni Maharaj gazed towards the departing youth. Durgabai's heart too ached, full of love for Baba. Each of the close ones, in whose heart Merwan had found a place, was deeply affected. Baba was almost 28 years old then. Observing this most touching scene, each wept with joy. Her age had not waited in vain, and its cries echoed the divine voice which proclaimed, "The avatar of the age has come. All hail Meher Baba, the compassionate Father."